Hello, my name is Nicole Nelson. I am an attorney and one of the authors of our team's presentation. Thank you for your interest in our project. Centreville, Illinois is a town with a population of approximately 5,000 residents. It is 95% African American. The median household income is approximately $17,441. In 2018 and 2019, Centreville was voted the poorest city in the state of Illinois and ranked one of the poorest in the country. It sits within 3 miles of East St. Louis, and both cities share the same zip codes. The residents we work with directly reflect the population of Centreville. Almost all of the residents we work with are African American, with the exception of a few. Most, if not all, of the residents are retired or out of the workforce due to disability. Most of the residents are 60 years and up, with several in their 70s and in their 80s and some in their 90s. We became aware of the conditions in Centreville when I was working at a nonprofit legal aid office in East St. Louis, Illinois in 2018. During the spring of that year, I met Centreville resident Walter Bird, who was randomly assigned to me as a client regarding a billing issue he was having with a local sewage treatment utility company. Over the course of that time, he told me about the conditions at his home. It was that when they flushed the toilets in his home, it all came up in his front yard. As you see in this slide number 2, these are the photos I took that spring when I ventured out to Walter's property to see what he had described to me. This was next to the steps of the front door at his home. Slide number 3 is one of the many tours Walter gave me that spring. The ditches were and still remain full of water that looks just like this. It is often mixed with water that has sewage and water from the rain and sanitary sewer system that sits in these ditches for weeks and sometimes months on end. Slide 3 is also an example of what it can look like in Centreville when the conditions are considered dry. That is, there has been no rain. That means that these ditches are sitting with contaminated sewer water in their yards, ditches, and basements and crawl spaces for many residents. Slide 4 is an example of what Centreville looks when it rains. While these photos look demonstrative of an area that has been hit by hurricane-like rains, it can simply take 1 or 2 hours of rain. In some areas of Centreville, a good hard 20 to 30 minutes of rain will create conditions that look like this, and then Centreville residents are trapped in their homes. And as you see, in boats like the one Walter is in the third photo, and wherein he is using the boat to try to rescue other neighbors.
You ought to come out here and dig these
Everything running that way, it needs to be deeper.
This short video here is footage of a sewer pipe in the yard of a Centreville resident's home where a sewage pipe runs continuously and has done so for years. The next 2 slides are a reminder of the conditions that these flooding and sewage events create. As a reminder, these flooding events are due to stormwater flooding from a failed infrastructure, not from a local creek, river, or lake. This is what it looks like when a poor Black community has an infrastructure problem, in this case, a sanitary sewer system and ditch system that have been so poorly neglected and oftentimes simply not maintained for decades that the system cannot hold the water or sewage and it overtakes the properties, roads, and homes of the residents. The project is currently run alongside the residents with myself from Equity Legal Services and my colleague, Senior Staff Attorney Kalila Jackson from the St. Louis Metropolitan Equal Housing and Opportunity Council as the 2 main points of contact amongst the residents. Because Kalila and I knew we were looking at significant environmental issues, neither of us practiced environmental law, we knew we needed to first have a community meeting to simply listen to the residents and then find other professionals in our network to possibly assist. Slide 8 here reflects how our process as a team started from the beginning and works to date. The name, Centreville Citizens for Change, is the name that the resident committee eventually gave themselves. It is community/resident centered, meaning the thoughts, ideas, and votes originate from the community and work outward to towards the partners for us to then put those ideas and votes and thoughts into action. Because of our respective experiences in the court system and in communities, Kalila and I knew we wanted to build something different, centering the voices of the community with quarterly meetings, therefore allowing the residents to provide feedback and thoughts to us about what was contributing to their living conditions, quickly guided the process that we have today. Additionally, we met with every single resident at their homes in the beginning. Those were long days and long weeks of traveling back and forth to Centreville. However, it was important for us that we were centering the residents, and this also meant centering them physically in their spaces where they were comfortable. As we began to think about bringing on additional people who might be able to assist the community, we were always mindful of balancing the need for resolution while also being willing to walk away from potential partnerships when they did not suit what the community needed. For example, we were mindful and deliberate about working with organizations and individuals who reflected the diversity of this community, and that was and has remained important to us, as well as those who are committed to carrying out actions that reflect the equity required in reaching resolutions that will help a community that looks like Centreville. While this has sometimes required uncomfortable and direct conversations with colleagues and potential partners about race and inequities, the result has been stronger partnerships rooted in a deeper understanding of each other and a greater investment in the vision of the project and a community. Our process as a team is quite simple and will be further explained by Mr. Bennett, one of the residents and co-presidents of the Centreville Citizens for Change Resident Committee, on slide 10. However, this process ultimately involves taking matters to the resident committee for their votes. We deliberately and painstakingly center this Black community's voices because historically Black and Brown communities are not centered, particularly as it relates to environmental injustices. Here in Centreville, the residents face numerous crushing barriers while also advocating for environmentally safe conditions. Income and food insecurity and issues with access to basic needs such as heat and hot water are just a few issues that Centreville residents encounter, and what we in turn as a team also work to find resolutions and resources for the Centreville residents. Above all, outside of the significance of building a value-driven team, we have also learned how deeply embedded and intertwined these basic human rights envelop this environmental justice movement, and how much we should all be on alert for these issues as well when working alongside communities.
On the next slide, you will hear from Mr. Bennett. He will tell you what this process has been like for him and what he hopes to see in the future, and the lessons that he has learned along the way.
Mr. Bennett, can you please state your full name?
My full name is Cornelius Charles Bennett.
Okay, Charles, I didn't know that was your middle name.
That's call me CC.
Okay. I thought, okay. All right. Yeah. And so, where do you live in Centreville?
I live at 80 North 80th Street in Centreville, Illinois.
Right. I'm going to ask you a couple questions. What do you feel like you've been one of the co-presidents for, let's say it'll be, it has been a year.
Yeah.
It's been a year, a little over a year. What do you feel like works? So, we have the committee, then we have all the different partners we work with. What do you feel like works with the committee and the partners we have?
Well, I think what works is communication.
Mm-hmm.
We communicate. Mm-hmm. Not like it was before this pandemic happened, because we meet face to face, and it was much better. We could understand it. I mean, you can only do so much on that computer, but face to face talking with somebody, you get more out of it. You get more out of the group. And I wish we could do that again. I think we'll accomplish a whole lot more, a whole lot faster, and everybody can get together and say what they want to say. But I know we can't do that now. But I wish we could.
Do you feel like when we were meeting in person, which was up until the last,
March,
5 or 6 months,
right?
This year. When
that stuff really started happening. I think it was around March or end of February, something like that. And I thought we got more out of it then than we do now. Because you ask questions on the computer and everybody just sitting around, don't say anything, like you're distant and you can't really say look at the other person's face and what they think, and how they reacting to different things. So, but I wish we could do that again.
So you feel like the communication is the part that works the best?
Best.
Okay.
Communicate and talk about it and get an understanding. Everybody be on the same page. Like one person might say, well, I don't want to do this. And then you either talk them into it or talk them out of it. Or just say, well, you do what you want to do, but the majority rule.
That's the closed session. So like when the attorneys jump off, you guys have the closed session. So when you guys vote, you think that's the part that works. And
everybody votes. So like Paul, he said, do you understand what we're talking about? Okay, do you want to say go for this, or do you don't want to go for it? And he said, okay, we'll go for it. And then next you go to the next person, they say the same thing. You want to go for it? And so on. And so that's how we've been agreeing on different things lately. You know, everybody voiced their opinion, and they say, "Do you want to do it?" And Leon and Blaylock and all the other people, they vote on it, and they say, "Okay, we'll do it like this."
So it sounds like one of the things to the next question about things that haven't been working or not working is when we had to switch to the computer or
Right.
phone call. That doesn't, you don't like that as much. It hampers communication.
No, I used to say all the time, I said, "Man, we ain't got nobody to talk to around this place." You know? I mean, I would sit out here and I'll tell you about that water standing over across the street. That water was standing over, I bet you, 10 years. What else you want to ask?
No, those are good. Those are really good thoughts, especially the parts about not knowing everybody else was suffering too.
No, I didn't.
Right?
I
Everybody was kind of fragmented and on
right.
their own.
Everybody's off to themselves.
Mm-hmm.
But now we are group.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if somebody called me and needed a hand, man, I jump in my truck and I go around and help anybody.
Mm-hmm.
But see, before I didn't know who to help, where to go, what to do. I didn't know anything.
Mm-hmm.
But now we are more together.
Do you feel like the process is community centered, as in you all make the
Yes.
decisions?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. I like the fact that I can voice my opinion about what's going on in my neighborhood now.
Mm-hmm.
Before, I didn't have to say about nothing, but
Mhm.
now I do,
Mm-hmm.
and it makes me feel better. I mean, I'm like I'm doing something for the people, the neighborhood. Might not be much, but it makes me feel like I'm doing something.
No, it is something.
I mean, especially with you guys help.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because before, like I said before, we didn't have nobody.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why we cherish you guys so much, and y'all sticking with us, man. And ain't you know, sometimes lawyers they say, well, we gonna do that, then they leave after a little time, you know. But you still here, right out front, right with us. So as long as I'm glad I was getting discouraged. I
Yeah.
said, look, dude, man, you can't get discouraged. We didn't have nothing before. Now we got some. I said, well, if you want to quit, you go ahead. But I'm not quitting. I told him, I'm not quitting. I'm sticking with it till the end.
Mm-hmm.
Till the end.
In the summer of 2019, one of the Harvard students who interned with our project interviewed everyone on our team for part of a project we commissioned to determine how we can improve working collaboratively. You can see the direct comments from team members about their experiences on this project and our path forward. As the interviews demonstrate, we share common goals and values, yet have differing expertise, which enriches our team as we work toward the short and long-term goals. Ultimately, our work focuses on centering the community, working alongside residents, and finding ways together to achieve resolutions and finding ways to continuously improve our communication and to be constantly mindful of continuing to center this community. Thank you for your attention during this presentation. Mr. Bennett,